This week's episode is sponsored by Gratitude Apparel Clothing. You can find all the information within the description. Give them a follow. Thank you.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Billy Moore podcast, and today's special guest is Terry Daniels. Terry Daniels is the author of a book called Passport to Hell, and she's going to tell us her story. How are you, Terry? You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well,
You've had a bit of a colourful story, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. It's been a long 14 years. Yeah, yeah, very long. Yeah, it's been a journey, a very long journey. And some days, yeah, you feel right about it, and other days, yeah, it's still quite dark.
Well, tell us about this book, and because it says here, Passport to Hell: How I Survived Sadistic Prison Guards and Hardened Criminals in Spain's Toughest Prisons. And that's going to be hard for a woman, never mind a man. So tell us what happened leading up to you getting arrested, and why that kind of...
Yeah, so I moved to Tenerife in '96 to live my dream, because that's my happy home as such. So I decided to work a bit here, and then I thought, right, time is right. 22, let's go. So I moved over there, and the first year was fine, partying every night, great. And I met Antonio, who owned a club on Veronica's. So yeah, it was a lot of drink, a lot of drugs. And he said to me one day, "Oh, do you want to come to Brazil with me?" So I was like, "Yeah, all right then, whatever." So yes, it was... I was very naive, very silly, and so I decided to go with him. So after a week's holiday, coming back through the airport in Gran Canaria, he was found to be carrying 4 kilos of cocaine in his suitcases. So we were both arrested. I was then took up to the prison, and then the following day I was granted bail. So I had to spend a few days in there before they put the bail up. So over in Spain, totally different than here. So then I left Gran Canaria and went back to Tenerife, which I had to sign on once a month. So then I think it must have been another year before I went to court. So then I went back over to Gran Canaria. So it was like the biggest farce you've ever seen. Antonio was there.
So what did you have to go to court for?
Well, because they thought I was involved in it. They thought I was the instigator with him, and they were both our drugs. Now, Antonio admitted that everything was his. I had no involvement, and he denounced who he worked for. So then we went in there. There was no pleading guilty, not guilty. We literally sat there. He talked for an hour and a half. I don't know what he said to this day, because there was no translator. I answered probably 4 or 5 questions, one of them being, which one's your suitcase? That green one. Oh, the one without the drugs in. So, yeah, and that was it. Then we walked out of court. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And the lawyer was like, no, it's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, you'll be fine. 2 days later, I got a 10-year sentence, and with a 76 million peseta fine, which is about 200 grand. But you're not going to prison.
Yeah.
No, we're going to appeal. More money, more money. By this time, Mum and Dad had spent near on 50, 60 grand on lawyers, which we now found out weren't proper lawyers. So then, it went for appeals, which the appeal then gets paper read in Spain. You don't go to court after that. So it then goes through the appeal system in mainland Madrid and Spain. So unknown to me, I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I think it was in the year 2000, my MP, John Burko, received a letter saying, she was released with no readmission. So from that we thought, right, it must be over. So I applied for a new passport. A week later, what comes through? My new passport. So then Mum come to collect me, and I come home. Then, long story short, I moved over to Northern Ireland to be with another lad. Then trouble followed me there as well. So then the authorities in Ireland discovered that I was wanted in Tenerife, which I thought it was all over because I've not heard anything.
So you wanted in Tenerife for 4 kilos of...
For cocaine. Yeah, for it come on the my CRB check that there was a conviction still outstanding, pending with for trafficking of a Class A substance, basically. So then I come back from Ireland, Northern Ireland, and it in the June 2003. I wasn't actually living at home at the time. Mum called me in the morning at 9 o'clock and said, Terry, you've got to come home. I was like, no, I'm not coming home. She said, yeah, you've got to come home. I said, they're there, aren't they? She went, yes. They're 3 Scotland Yard officers issuing a European arrest warrant. So then I got rearrested again, took to London, bailed again, and then it took them 2.5 years to execute the warrant. So here we are. That's 8 years on from the original sentence. So,
and you haven't yet been to prison at this stage?
Well, I'd spent a couple of days in Gran Canaria, but nothing, no, nothing. And then it was in the October that I got the phone call 2 days before, and they said, yeah, you've lost all your appeals, you're being extradited back to Spain. You've got to hand yourself into Heathrow Airport. So then we got in the car, went to Heathrow, and then that was the start of my journey to try and get out of prison again. So then they took me to actually mainland Spain. You don't actually go back to the Canary Islands because the prisons are too small. So I landed in Soto de Real in Madrid, and then I was transferred over to Topaz in Salamanca, quite a high security prison over there, and that's when I applied for the royal pardon as soon as I got there, and also for the transfer back to Britain on a repat, so that I could serve my sentence here because it would be easier. So I spent 19 months over there, and then come back to Britain, and then did 19 months here, and then they served the pardon and dropped my sentence from 10 to 6 years on time served. I was released onto prison bail, and then that was that really. And it was a long back to back. It lasted 14 years, and in that time, I had
That's a big chunk of your life, isn't it, for a young girl as well, especially. So what was the experience like in a Spanish prison?
So well, in Spain it's mixed prisons. Yeah, so that we're in with everybody really. We're in different they're called modulos over there, the wings. They're huge prisons as well. They're over 2,000 strong. But every prison, they're not tiny. In Soto de Real alone, there was a modulo for mothers and like babies and kids, which is it's not the dumb thing. So we used to come out in the morning and they come out in the afternoon. So there's kids wandering about in the prison. It was horrible.
So that must have been surreal.
Oh, it was just horrible. But then when I got transferred to Topaz, there's 1,700 men and 100 women. And later finding out that I was mixing with rapists because we're allowed out. So even you're in the modulo on your own with the women, but when you actually go out for association, it's with the men.
That's odd, that, isn't it?
It's not. It's weird, basically. Yeah. And then to find out that in one part I was actually sat next to a rapist. It was not very. It was weird, very strange.
How did you feel? Was you full of fear?
To tell you the truth, I don't know now how I got through it. I to this day I'm not sure how I got through that sentence. Yeah. Because I think every day it's like fight and flight. You just you either get on with it or you kill yourself. There's only two ways about prison. You either get up, get on with it, or end it. And there were dark days. There were days when I sat in that cell because in Spain there's no security. So I had my medicine, my razors. Yeah, I had the whole lot. And there's some days that I thought I can't do this, but then I did it for her, my mum. I got through it all for them because I thought, Jesus, I've put them through enough. And it was in Soto de Real when I come back on my transfer home. One of the girls in there committed suicide opposite my cell, and prison changed for me that day. Yeah. Prison went really dark, like really, really dark. And I couldn't wait to get home, basically. And then I thought, no, I've got to do this for them. I've put them through far, far too much. So, yeah, I think... And it's so many different ways that you can do your sentence because you either go in there and mix with everybody and then or you play the bitch where everybody wants to make you run around after them, Oh yeah, you just have to try and deal with it as well as you can every day. But it's tough. And then to be away from your family, especially abroad, because visits were few and far between. You had 5 phone calls a week. Yeah, it was tough, really, really tough. But fortunately enough, in there that there was a few English lads, and so really they sort of looked out for you. But then the language barrier, I had to learn Spanish quite quickly because obviously...
I'm surprised you never got yourself into a relationship while you were there.
I mean, did sort of, yeah. Now looking back on it, yeah, it's all a bit... it's a bit like a hotel, yeah. But yeah, I did befriend somebody in there and he looked after me. So yes, I do thank him quite a lot for the fact that he helped me out through my sentence.
Because it's an unusual situation. I mean, I've never been to a prison where, you know, there's females on the yard with the men.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been to prisons where there's ladyboys on the yard.
Yeah.
You know, but you can call them women. But I mean, that must have been like strange for the English guys as well.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, it was. Yeah, because most of them in there, it was they were all in, because Topaz is more like a holding prison for like every national that you can find, and there was a lot of ETA in there, the terrorist group from the north, because they were all serving like 500-year jail sentences. They quite managed to do all that, but they did. So, and it was all sort of all nationalities. So you've got the South Americans who were there for the drugs, the Eastern Europeans were all the pickpockets, and then the English most of them were involved in the, because it's like the drop off between when you come back from South America, you drop down into Madrid and then go on to Holland. So usually if they're intercepted there, that's when they get caught and that's when they end up in prison in Spain. So it was a hierarchy, and then you had a couple of the local gitanas, which the gypsies were in there, and that was about it really. Most of us were foreign nationals, so you had sort of all walks of life in there.
So there was a lot of drug smugglers.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. But most of the girls from South America, their stories are very sad, because most of them lived in dire conditions, like mud huts.
They were just mules.
Yeah, literally. But most of them were trying to get out of the country and trying to escape their life. So they get to Spain, then they meet a boy in the prison, try and settle down with them, and then get residencia and wouldn't go home. Yeah. I knew a lot of them that had children over in South America and were never going home. So yeah, it was a bit. Yeah, some of their stories were quite sad, really. Yeah, for me, because obviously I come from Little Wingrave. In the middle of Buckinghamshire, and I've never had to fight for my life. I've never had to go out and do what they do. Yeah.
So is this area where you grew up most of your life?
Yeah,
this is like in the middle of nowhere, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
so,
yeah.
No, I actually thought it was. It's a beautiful part of the country.
It's like Emmerdale.
Yeah, it's like Emmerdale.
Yeah.
It was like wow, the scenery is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's a lot better than the scenery in a prison. What was the cells like? What was the conditions for you?
So yeah,
I suppose they weren't too bad.
They weren't like obviously any conditions that you had to suffer at all. But the money was the problem. That there was no source of income. So like back in the UK, you can work in the prison to get money in. Over there, if your family aren't supporting you, you've got to do what you've got to do to survive. And yeah, it's not great because obviously you don't get your phone cards. So if you've got no money, you can't phone home, can't write to people. Also food, the food was disgusting. It's not as bad as the Thai, but yeah, it was inedible. I survived on bread most of the time because the officers used to nick all our food, and we used to get like the slops. So like it was more pulse related, and it was dire. Anyway, so but the cells were quite. Most of the time you bunked up with 2 people, but because I was only an English girl, most of the time they left me on my own. But you went in, there's a little shower. And literally, by the time you walked you were out the other end. And that was that. But in that heat as well, in the height of the summer, it was very hot. There was no air conditioning. It was quite, stifling up there. But then all they give you every month was like a couple of toilet rolls, like your plastic knife and fork, a bottle of shower gel, which was a bit like bleach, a like toothpaste, which you shouldn't really be brushing your teeth with it, and some condoms. So yeah, that was it really. So if you hadn't got the support of your family at home, you were, the girls were doing stuff for, the officers were very much to be paid off, so you could get whatever you brought in. As long as you got an officer on your back and you got money behind you, you could get whatever you want in there.
So what was the sadistic behaviour out of it?
Well, it's I think my first problem was when I got into Soto, I was very frightened, and I was on a sort of, I had to detox quite rapidly because I've been on quite a bender for quite a long time before I went into prison.
What had you been using prior to going in?
Prior to going in there was amphetamine, so because I just tried to drown it out. I went on a bender for 2.5 years. When I first got arrested on the European arrest warrant, that was it, I was off. And it was alcohol, and I was in a right mess. If you see the photograph of me that was took the day before on the news report, oh my goodness, I don't look very well. I look very tired, and I then had to try and, because the only thing when you go to prison in Spain, the detox program is whatever problem you had, you get methadone. But I didn't have a heroin problem, so I wasn't going to accept the methadone because I knew that was just another struggle. So the first 2 weeks was mainly about trying to sort myself out and trying to adjust to the fact that I knew I could be in there for 10 years. So, the first few weeks was very tough. I had no money. I couldn't phone home, and I felt very lost. But lucky enough, one of the English girls in there really looked after me. She took me under my wing. But then I got transferred out of there very quickly over to Topaz. So it was... But then when I got to Topaz, the first thing was we got off the bus and we had one of the girls on there who had schizophrenia, and she'd not been given her medication, but they battered her. So that was my first sort of arrival. My first thing was I walked off that bus, and this poor girl was getting, they got the bath, and they took her in the back room, and that was it. And I was like, great, super. Is this what I've got to put up with? So the problem is in Spain, you just, because of the language barrier as well. And when I first got there, it was literally 2 or 3 words that I could speak. I didn't know what anybody was saying about me, and the guards were. It wasn't very. It was all too much for me. But then with Mum visiting, she had problems as well. It's all It's. I think the problem with being in a foreign prison for an English person is it's all a big barrier. Everything's a barrier for you. So you don't know what anybody's saying. No. Yeah.
It's probably the loneliest for myself that I've ever felt when I've been in that cell, and the language barrier, especially when you're in a room like I was with 80 inmates, and not one of them can speak English, and you can't express to them how lonely you feel, or you can't express sadness, or you can't communicate on how much you're missing the company of friends and family. So it's a lonely place.
It's one of the loneliest, but not, because you're never on your own. It's one of the loneliest places you'll ever be, but you're never alone, because you're never alone. That's the problem. You might get in your cell on your own, but they'll only be for 5 minutes, and then the rest of the time everybody's everywhere. You never get any time to yourself. But then sometimes when you do need somebody, that's when it is the most loneliest. It is. It's a horrible place. And because a lot of people say, but these people, they deserve being in there, and they deserve this problem, and they deserve to. But it's still.
I agree. People do deserve to go. I deserve to go to prison. I created a lot of consequences for myself, and I own the responsibilities of that. However, it's not the fact that you go there; it's what happens while you're in there. It's the inhumane and the barbaric way you're treated, which is unfair. You're supposed to go to a prison establishment for rehabilitation. To move on, to benefit society when you're released. I see the prison system all around a bail failing. And,
Yeah, oh
in
god,
all
yeah.
areas.
Even here in Britain.
Oh,
it doesn't-
in the UK especially.
Oh yeah, it was just as bad here as what it was over there.
So you know, this is a question you've probably been asked a lot, Terry, and I'll ask you as well.
Yeah.
Did you know, right,
Yeah.
Antonio, right, was smuggling 4 kilos of cocaine? So you had absolutely no idea.
I had a funny feeling when we got there.
But you
Something wasn't right.
You just had an
Yeah.
inkling, but you
Yeah.
were kind of like,
Yeah.
Did
But
you-
then because I remember he came back with these suitcases this day, and it was all a very odd holiday. It wasn't right, and it was. But then I had such a bad coke problem at the time. If you'd have told me you were flipping James Bond, I would have believed you.
Yeah,
I think the mixture of getting mixed up with alcohol, drugs, and life, and I was stupid, I was naive, I was young. Oh, this is all fabulous. But I had a terrible coke problem. Oh my God, yeah, it was really bad. Yeah. And sometimes you believe anything anybody tells you. Because if somebody come and offer me a holiday to Brazil now, I'll be like, no, I don't think so. I really don't think so.
you think twice about it,
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
yeah.
There's a lot of young girls, I mean, especially in the news. I mean, you've been like captured abroad
Yeah,
with
yeah,
kilos of cocaine.
yeah.
You know, there was a couple of girls from Scotland not so long
Yeah,
ago.
they were in
wasn't
Peru. The Peru too, they call them.
the
Yeah.
Peru too, you know, and it's you know, when you're getting like really heavy sentences, aren't you? So
Yeah.
it's not it's not fun. Is
No.
it? I mean,
Well, see, the thing is with Antonio, because after we were arrested, we were put in the court. Well, not the initial, but when we were took up from the police station back to the court the following day, I was put in with him in the cell, and I was like, Antonio, really? Why have you done this? He said, no, you're fine. You're going to be protected. I'm going to tell them everything. They're in my bag, not in your bag. XYZ. I'm going to denounce who I work for. You will always be protected. I only took you so it looked good. I said, but you could have took any one of them girls off. And he goes, really? Why did you take me? But he said, I don't know that.
oh, why not?
I don't know
That's
that.
it, yeah.
But he always said, you will be fine. I've got this covered. Oh, yeah, really? Really? Yeah, but he was set up. It is all different things that have fallen from the court papers, and I found out different things afterwards. And yeah, it was all a big setup. The coke was absolute crap as well. 50% base cocaine, really? Coming through the border of Colombia? I really don't think so, do you? So things don't add up with the court case at all.
So do you think that the coke was like taken, or
I think because he worked for 2 Guardia Civil officers and a judge, right? So I presumed what had happened is they'd set the run up. So then because they kept phoning his phone, they were outside waiting for it.
Yeah.
So I think what happened is that they took it off, bashed it, took what they wanted, but then I still think there was somebody else on that flight with the big.
Well,
Because they were busy with us.
yeah.
They slipped through the net. But 50% base cocaine from Colombia would have rang anybody's bells, really. If that had come through a court in Britain, the judge would have gone, hang on a minute, what are you doing with that?
Yeah.
Really? Well, that ain't worth it, is it?
No, not 50%. Not from the source.
No.
It's like
so,
you wouldn't even get that over here.
and there was some missing out of it, and yeah, it was all too much.
It was messy.
It was all a big setup. Yeah, and he just fell for it. I think in life there's always been a few things you don't talk to the police. You definitely don't work for them unless you're going to ask for trouble. So yeah, it was all and it's all fallen into place over years of looking through the court papers, and because now I've talked to people, they've translated the court documents for me, and yeah, it just never... Because he denounced who they worked for. He literally stood up for an hour and a half singing like a song.
Just blew them right up.
Blew them out. He had names and addresses in his file of facts, right? So on the court, because they don't do the women at the front, they just summarise what they were.
So he became a supergrass.
No, put in there, he didn't give enough evidence for the police officers and the judge to be investigated, but... I know that the 2 police officers were took off main duty and put up the north on traffic duty, and I don't know what happened to the judge. Yeah. And then they got brought back and it all got forgotten.
And how long did Antonio get?
10 the same as me, but he stayed in. See, it's all a bit odd. He got released the year I got arrested on the European arrest warrant, which is a bit weird. They caught up with him later on. They wanted to set up an interview with my mum and him on the news, really, which it didn't happen, thank God. No, yeah, they wanted to set it all up.
So going forward, you've spent 19 months, is it, in Spain? Yeah. And then you've been repatriated back to the UK. Where did you end up?
In Holloway to begin with, because that's where all repats come back to.
Yeah, it's like we end up in Wandsworth.
Yeah,
it's all repats come from.
Yeah.
You know, they all go to. Yeah. So we all go to A-Wing in Wandsworth.
So and then from there, I only spent a couple of weeks in there, and then I went to Cookham in Kent, and then East Sutton Park up the road, an open prison. I went there quite quickly, really, which was. Some ways it wasn't very healthy for my sentence, because I had to spend quite a lot of time in an open conditions where girls were going in and out, and I was stuck there thinking, hang on a minute, but I want to go home, and why can't I go home? No, so it was a little bit, it was closed, but no, you were still in prison, but it was too open. The conditions were far too open for me at that time, because I had to sit in there for quite a long time waiting for other things to happen. But yeah, I'm quite thankful that I was in there, because it was a little bit less hard than because Holloway was horrible. Oh, it's like a mental home in there. And Cookham Wood wasn't very nice either, because there was quite nasty people in there. Yeah, because girls aren't separated, you see. We're all in. We're in with the cat, your cat A or your cat D. Yeah. So yeah, some funny old characters in there.
So it's very volatile, and there's a lot of drug-induced mental health as well in prisons as well. That's just what my experience is, and I can identify with the open prison conditions. I've been to an open prison, and sometimes I think I'd rather be behind a door. I'd rather be locked up. The time goes a little bit faster when you're behind a door, because when you're open, it just drags. Yeah,
but you're too vulnerable as well. Yeah. Because girls were bringing in alcohol, hiding them in bits and bobs. And one day, somebody had hidden a load of stuff in my locker. So yeah, it was too open. But the worst thing was, one of the days, one of my teachers got killed in the car park. It was all over the news. And it was like the prison become it was too open then. There was no CCTV. There was no. It was horrible, and it turned out that it was one of her ex-partners. But everybody in the prison, they thought we'd all killed her. So we all went on lockdown. Then we all got interviewed. Yeah, got murdered in the car park. Yeah, it was all over the news. It was horrible.
This is in the prison car park.
Yeah, in Cookham Wood. That was quite an horrific event. It's it was. It made my prison sentence quite because I thought, Jesus, if that could happen to her out here. Well, I'm in with like people who've done 10, 15 years, or on the back of a life sentence because they've murdered somebody. They won't think twice about having me, because now this has happened out there. Yeah, it was quite.
So you've had your upbringing. You were just like, what I'm hearing is like you're just a young kid, naive. You want to enjoy your life. You travel to Spain, you meet the wrong people, you end up in Brazil, you go to prison, and then you have all this carry on and this messy kind of like 14 years of going back and forth, and the anxiety of this, that, and then having to spend, almost a couple of 3.5 years within 2 different prisons within. Have you ever been to prison since? Was that your first experience of it and your last, or did you end up?
Well, because I went to prison, obviously the first initial arrest in 97, but that was only for a few days. And then when I come out, then in Northern Ireland, I had to go into prison for there and wait in bail. But then when I come back to Britain, my only other experience was when I got.
So what was Northern Ireland's experience? What was that to you two?
Well, it was.
Didn't you mention something about terrorism?
Yeah, what happened was, in Northern Ireland's just a different ball game altogether. I'm quite glad I lived over there, because it's just another experience to add to your book of how. It's not just a fight for survival over there. Oh my God, it's a daily fight. So when, obviously, I was a little British girl, because I moved over there to be with a boy that I met in Tenerife, and then we split up. I thought I didn't want to come home. My dad was diagnosed with cancer, and I just couldn't face it, really. So I laid over there, and then I moved from him into Ballymena, but I had to move into quite a predominantly, it was a UDA area. So you have to live within your means as well. So, and you have to, not that you get involved with what they do, but you have to, I can't really know how to explain this to you, that it's, you don't roll or you don't agree with what they're getting up to, but because you're enforced into a situation, you have to live within what they're up to, if you know what I mean. So it's not that I wanted to go on the marches as such, but because every weekend they're off on their marches, I thought, this would be fun. We'll just go and get drunk and bash the drum about somewhere. So yeah, it's part and parcel of what you, but I was only this little British girl, very lost in Northern Ireland, who just wanted to
fit in, to be a part of something.
Yeah, but wanted to go out every weekend and get drunk, basically. Yeah. That's all I wanted to do. But it just so happened that you have to live somewhere and they have to look after you. So anyway, my father died. Well, my father became very, very ill. And on the Monday, I had to go home. Mum called me and she said, Terry, you're going to have to get home. This is your time. Dad's not going to get any better. So literally, I was working at the window factory and I threw one of the keys at my mate and said, lad, can you just look after me house for me? Because I was more worried about people burgling it, to be honest with you. So then I come home. Father died on the Friday, and then I laid here for quite some time with my mum because I didn't want to go back for a while. And then I took her back with me just for a trip. And we drove back and we stayed for a while. But I laid on there. Now, I'd forgotten about this key given to this lad. It was in the October. My front door comes in. Their police and the army, everybody out in the street. Got
the guard there, isn't it?
Yeah, issuing a warrant to come in my house. I was like, what the hell's happening now? It was like, I was very drunk as well. It's 11 o'clock and I was absolutely hanging. Because really, after my dad died, I just went on another bender. I just literally went over there to get drunk. And I was drunk.
You were escaping?
Yeah, literally escape. And to tell you the truth, I wouldn't have noticed nothing. And what had happened was, because I lived down this road opposite the pub, there was CCTV on the front of my house all the time. So they knew where I was all the time because I worked with a boy. They were going in and out in the cupboard. They found a bag with a pipe bomb, sawn-off shotgun and ammunition. They knew it wasn't mine. They'd been watching the house for a long, long time. And they just wanted him. But he noticed what was going on. He was sat in the pub. And then later on, he went back in the house when they went and they arrested him. They were waiting for him in the house. So they knew I wasn't involved in it. But they just wanted me. I don't know why, but they had it in for me. But then because I'd gone through such a weird court case in Spain, now to be going for a proper court case in Ireland or in Northern Ireland, I then knew what my rights were. I'm glad I went through both systems because then I knew how bad Spain was. So then we were both arrested. I pleaded not guilty. We were separated. I never saw him again. I went to trial on my own and then he went for sentencing and I got found not guilty. But then they found out about Tenerife and then that's where it all kicked off again.
You've had like I said earlier, you've had a colourful...
I'm just too trusting, really. And life, when I think, to be honest with you, I'd go through 400 sentences again if I could just have my dad back. I tell you, that's just not, it's one of them life-changing incidents. I'll never get over that. Yeah. Never. My father was my world.
And how old was you when he passed away?
He'd be about 28, 29. So yeah, robbed. He was 54 when he died. It's horrible. It was just, but then I didn't know. I was oblivious to what was going on around me. I didn't know what these were up to, and they were clever. These boys are clever. They do what they do. And I've forgotten about the
these all like IRA.
No, this was UDA.
UDA.
The Wombles as they call them. So, but it's just over there. They try and they'll find somebody who's very naive, very stupid, like I was in Tenerife. It's just wrong place, wrong time, And the amount of people on Amazon, obviously, when I wrote the book, was, oh, yeah, how did she not know about any of it?
Yeah, I've read a few, to be fair, right? Because I'm pretty sure I've read a few of the reviews, and they were a bit, without knowing you.
Yeah.
I felt they were a bit
they
harsh.
To be honest with you, in life, it's like when I first wrote the book and it come out, and then I did read some of them on Amazon. I was like, oh my God. But then I thought, no, everybody's got their own opinion. I know what the truth is. I know what happened throughout all this. And so does my family. That's all that matters to me. It's all that matters to me is I know what happened. So, and I know that I've been through very tough legal battle, and it sent me, because the only way I deal with anything is to go and sit in a field and take lots of drugs. So yeah, and that's how I cope with things. That's been my coping mechanism ever since I was born. So yeah, then that's what I do. But then it's like, I'll admit to anybody, I've had quite a few problems with alcohol, drugs, and they do blind you, and they do make you trust people maybe that you shouldn't trust.
Well, your inhibitions are low.
Yeah, oh my God, huge.
So yeah,
huge.
I totally understand because of my own experience with drugs.
Yeah. I don't trust anybody now. I have very serious trust issues. I mean, huge trust issues.
I think we live in a time of like mistrust anyway. It's like that, like right across the spectrum, you know. Even people who are in loving relationships probably don't trust each other. It becomes, you know, it's a world of doubt and mistrust.
Yeah, it's very sad. But then you've got my mum who trusts everybody, and I say to her, Mum, you can't be like that.
So yeah, you've had, see, Terry, what you know, I mean, it's a dog-eat-dog world, isn't it? And yeah, trust issues, once they've been damaged, it's very hard to repair.
Very.
So, and that, but also that can create a lot of loneliness within yourself, you know, because you're never going to move on. No. Because it's like, is this person telling the truth? Do I believe it? And then you doubt it, and then you'll cultivate a feeling around it, and then sabotage it.
Yeah, but I think in life as well, I have let my barriers down a couple of times since I've been out, and it's been done again.
So you've been hurt a few times.
Yeah. So really, sometimes I do. I think one day, hopefully, I can let the barriers down. And one day, something might come in that I can think, oh yeah, not everybody's a bad person.
No, there's not. And you know what? It's
it might happen one day, but at the moment, no. It's the barriers have gone right back up again. Yeah. So, but this, I must admit, this lockdown, this COVID, this has wrecked my life again. It has been tough, I must admit. It's been a very tough year. I feel sometimes like I've been back in prison, and it's bring back a lot of funny emotions for me, like very weird. Yeah, so it's been tough this time. But then, as before, I was the only one on the prison bus. This time, everybody's on the bus with me. I'm not alone. I'm not alone in that, because I was such alone when I went through all the troubles. Nobody knew what I was going through. Still to this day, nobody knows what I went through over that, because everybody's sentence is different. Yours would have been totally different than mine. You would have coped differently in situations. Have
you never sought any help for like PTSD?
Oh God, yeah. No, when I came out of prison, I was on the licence. That was pretty scary. And then I wrote the book, and then after that, I had a breakdown because my body was like. I think you get used to being in a world of trouble, and then when I realised that there was nothing to worry about, I was like, hang on a minute, but I don't like life. I've got to worry about something. And that's when I just shut off. So I had lots of counselling for PTSD. Yeah, and cognitive behavioural therapy.
CBT, yeah.
And
see, because most of what...
So, you see, it worked to an extent.
Most of most of your trauma and it comes from like your experiences growing up as well, and you know the way it's been, especially. So it's dealing with the past to heal for the future.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally I had it, and it was like I felt like I could counsel the counsellor, the way I felt I was alright, in a sense of like, you know, what's I probably wasn't, you know, probably faking it to make it, you know what I mean? And sometimes you have to do that.
I think we're sort of like, with lots of different problems, especially with the CBT, and then with the post-traumatic stress, it's like a soldier. So he gets his leg blown off. That's it. That's that time. They can pinpoint the exact moment he broke. Now, over the 14 years, a counsellor cannot pinpoint the exact moment I broke because there's too much. And I had to extend the counselling because she couldn't work out where exactly, because one incident finished, another one picked up, and I never had time to deal with anything.
Like a domino effect of...
Oh, it was so I got arrested, then I had the aneurysm, so to try and get over the aneurysm. Then I come home to Britain. Then Northern Ireland kicked in. Then I got rearrested on the European arrest warrant. Then I went to prison. Then I lost my dad in the middle of this. I missed my sister's wedding when I was in prison. So, and then I had all the drug and alcohol issues. Over that time, where do you start? Where do you start trying to heal me and put me back together? I think over the time, I've got to try and put myself back together. Coming out of prison, I spent quite a lot of time on my own because I had to try and find myself before anybody else was allowed in. It's tough. Some days are better than others. Some days I don't think about stuff and I'm quite happy. And other days I'm like, oh my God, I want to kill myself. But it's something that I'll never forget. But I'll try and learn to live with it. It's like my dad's death. You never get over it.
I mean, I think like the world we live in now, like a huge majority of the population suffer with mental health.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, years ago it was never even noticed. It was
No.
It was something, you know, now there's labels getting plastered all over you.
Yeah.
You know, it's bipolar, it's PTSD, it's schizophrenia, it's you know, there's kids who are like who are on the spectrum for autism that you wouldn't even think.
No.
So there's a lot of development, but there's also a lot of confusion.
Oh yeah.
You know, it kind of doesn't make sense really.
No, but then the whole time I've refused antidepressants. I've never ever took them because I thought, well, that should be another problem. Here we go again. Yeah, so I have refused.
Yeah, well, I've never taken them either.
No, because at the end of the day, when I wake up in the morning, even if I take that pill, that problem will always be there. So I've got to deal with that problem. So why take the pill?
Clouds the problem.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. The therapy, I must admit, talking to somebody does help. Yeah. So often enough, when I do feel fed up, I will reach to me mates. Yeah, I will. Well,
that is important. I always stress that to guests and stuff.
Yeah.
And people who watch the show, you know, if you're struggling, it's important to reach out. I've never felt in fear of like picking up the phone and.
Oh God, no.
I have early on, you know, not like in my days. It was like the pride was keeping me away, and you know, the ego. You know, I don't have to say that, and that just kind of made the problem even worse. But once you reach out and you're asking, you know, people for a solution, or a shared problem, it becomes that much more easier to cope with.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like with the lockdowns and that. Obviously, my panic attacks have gone through the roof hugely. But if I get up and tell my mum that it's happening, it goes away. So then I've shared it. I've knocked it onto her.
You've actually voiced it, and hearing it coming from yourself. Yeah, it's always a kind of
As long as if you can tell somebody, because I think most of my friends know what's happened to me, and if I can just sort of like, and then most of the family is very supportive, because I've been very fortunate that they didn't turn the back on me off. Because sometimes I think that they should have done, maybe, because I've been a little bit of an arsehole. So, and I've caused her more trouble than what
me and Mum
I should have put anybody through, because at the end of the day, my poor sister had to take a back seat quite a lot of the time. It was always about me. Yeah. Oh, look at Terry. Oh, Terry's in trouble again. Oh my God, look.
So the sense that it was all...
Mum was running out. Mum was having to come to here. Mum was here. Oh, Mum was there. Oh, Mum's got this. And oh my God, all the money is... So yeah, I'm very thankful every day, because I know if it wasn't for her, I'd be dead. I would.
I'd like to say thanks, Mum, for the carrot cake. It was absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
Jesus, I thought she bought it.
Yeah.
It was all made.
Yeah, if you ever want to come round for a bit of cake and coffee, just come round, anybody.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I always say this, I think we're coming to the end of the podcast. I've been really, really grateful for your time. Yeah. And I always ask this question: have you got any pearls or wisdom or anything you'd say to a younger Terry Daniels thinking about doing what you did back then?
Well, yes, it's I'll be honest with you, and I'll be honest with you, I have no regrets about anything that's ever happened to me. Because I think in life you have to go through these things to make the person that you are today. Sometimes I think that yes, maybe the drugs and everything played quite a huge part in the fact that I wasn't thinking straight. But then, no, I don't regret anything, really. I regret more putting the pressure on my family, because they pay the price. We just get on with it. We had to get on with it. But they, in themselves, had their own prison sentence. So really, it's you have to think. But it's a lesson learned, really. You have to sometimes go through these bad times to realise what the good times are going to be. Yeah. So I'm very excited at the moment about the possibility that we are working on something quite promising, really. So,
you want to share that before? Come on.
Yeah, hopefully we're in talks about putting it onto the television at the moment. So
your story is going to go on the screen.
Yeah, hopefully. Brilliant. Yeah. But then the whole, I'll be honest, I wrote the book as more of a educational, possibly why you wrote it too.
I think more cathartic.
Yeah, to educate people to what could happen to them. I think it's more. It's not all about the drugs, alcohol. It's more about the fact that if you get into trouble abroad, you aren't going to be treated the same as you are here. No, not at all. Definitely. And people have to realise this, that you are going to... even to the point that I could walk in a shop with somebody and they'd be shoplifting, I'm going to get arrested with them, because it's guilt by association every day over there. You're not going to go to court and have some nice judge who you're going to say, no, I'm not guilty, they're guilty. And they're going to say, no, you can go home. No. And you're going to get a big sentence for whatever crime. You're not invincible abroad. And the sentencing is harsh. And you are going to pay the ultimate price. And you aren't the one who's going to suffer the most. It is going to be your family. Yeah. Every day. But every day I get up and they know that I'm thankful that they stuck by me, because it's been a hard journey for all of us, not just me. The whole lot of us have been on a really quite hard journey, but to be honest, it has made me who I am today. And I'm quite thankful for every bit of support that I've had, but I'm quite thankful that I've had them lessons to learn, because they have made me
important lessons.
But so then I wouldn't have met you.
Yeah, because you read my story, didn't you?
Yes.
This is how we got connected.
Yeah. Shall I tell them about the story on the beach now? Yeah, sure. Well, when I was reading your book on the beach, I've got to the bit where the Billy had gone into the prison with the jabber pills all up his backside, and I was sat there reading it thinking, hang on a minute, I don't know where these jabber pills are. So I actually messaged Billy and said to him, where are they, because I'm a bit concerned that they're still there. And that's how we sort of got in contact. So
that was brilliant.
And
then that was a story that I kind of failed to continue in the first book, but I have written it in the second book, because a lot of people ask me that question, what happened to those jabber pills? What happened to the drugs that you had on you when you got arrested? Because you never explained after the initial arrest. Probably because I just didn't have the time. I don't know why I didn't, but it did. I've explained it more in detail in a second.
But the thing I was more worried about, Billy, is because I've been in that situation and I know what Thailand's like, because obviously I've met quite a few people over the years. I was more worried about the fact that if you'd have been caught with them, you'd have been dead.
Exactly, yeah.
It wasn't, that little 3.5 years that you got wouldn't have been that.
It wouldn't have been.
You'd have been on the death.
I was saying this to a friend before, like, it was a year for every tablet you get, And
it was quite frightening, that bit. I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, what did he do?
Crazy.
It was crazy. Yeah, very crazy.
And that's what we do when we're not in our right mind.
Yeah,
we lose it. So where can you get this book then?
Well, the book at the moment, because of what we're going through with the television, is we're in between publishers at the moment, because we're going to have a reprint when it goes onto the screen. It was available on Amazon. It still is on the Kindle and all that, but I'm not sure on paper form where we're in. But Kindle download's still around. But we're just waiting for the next part of the journey, the venture.
And I look forward to hearing more about it. And with that, I'll put all your socials at the end of the podcast. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. And with that, I'll say goodbye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.